So the real reason that you're afraid to put in this practice is because you've somehow developed like this love-hate relationship with your craft where you're measuring yourself against these insane expectations. Often a lot of people start when they're little kids. There's almost no apprehension for just getting stuck in there, going straight at it without knowing any theory, without knowing what is going to work or what's not going to work. Most kids are able to sort of just overcome that self-judgment, that self-criticism, that thing that keeps a lot of adults away from actually just taking up a discipline and running with it. They almost have no ability to censor what they're doing. So I was that kind of kid. I grew up in a musical house where we had a piano. My mom was a church piano player, so she used to lead praise and worship at our church. I would just get on the piano at times when nobody's looking and then just jam. What I would be doing was just make a lot of noise. It made no sense. So when I was about 9 or 10 years old, I was sent off to our neighborhood piano teacher. And I was so pumped because finally I'd learned some of the building blocks for what it takes to actually play what I'm hearing on the radio, compose my own songs, or just have a fun jamming time. My mother, being a piano player, used to assess my progress to see how well I'm doing and if I'm actually progressing anywhere. And because she was a great sight reader and I was still learning the basics of sight reading, she expected everything I played to kind of sound exactly as it's supposed to sound on the written music. In retrospect, I realized that the way my mother was assessing, or the way that she was teaching me at home when I was at the piano, was probably the way that she grew up learning the piano. That you got to do what's written on the page. You know, I'm not playing it right. I'm not living up to the standard of what it takes to be great straight out of the gate. The joy of just sitting there with the piano was being sapped out of me. If my parents gave up on it, I also gave up on it. That self-doubt and that discouragement had stayed with me. The feelings of negativity and self-doubt kind of transferred into my future exploration of the art of music, in that I always had this voice in the back of my mind saying, this isn't right. It needs to be great. Everything you do has to be amazing. Even when I went and I got formal training later on, it was a real struggle because a lot of times the thing that you have in your mind, especially in the beginning, isn't what's coming out of your hands or is being displayed in reality. It's not going to be great straight out of the gate. It's going to suck for the first little bit. We probably need to develop a new healthy relationship with the version of the artist that we see in our mind versus the reality. Because if you're going to shortchange yourself by expecting this crazy standard, then you're probably going to feel discouraged, demotivated. You're going to have negative thoughts. You're going to be comparing yourself to others, which is really the downfall of a lot of people who are trying to pick up a creative discipline, is that we look at not only our peers and compare ourselves to them, but we look at the greats inside of that particular medium, and we're like, I'll never live up to that. I'll never be able to be as good as so and so. And really, that is just the symptom of our culture. Our culture tends to reward what they deem as natural talent or geniuses, people who came out of their mother's womb just being freaking amazing. There's this movie called August Rush, which a lot of my music friends were, so in love with when it came out, about this kid who he's the illegitimate child of these two musicians. The one is a classical cellist and the father is this rock star, and they have like this one intense night of passion, and 9 months later this kid August Rush pops out, and he is this kid who just learns music theory like within one day, and then he's writing these amazing compositions within the next week. He's just this force of nature. And I always thought the premise for that movie was so silly, and it was also selling this whole idea that people like that do exist. And maybe they do exist, but I would say 95% of the art that you see out there that you think is great was probably written by somebody who went through the long process of doing the thing consistently coming back to the art, experimenting, learning something, failing, going 2 steps forward, taking 1 step back, or sometimes maybe 1 step forward and 10 steps back. Eventually, I learned that the better way to do this is to think of the time that you spend with your discipline as something that you can do daily, instead of trying to think of it as, I'm going to practice for an hour, like right before my next lesson or right before my next performance or whatever it is. Rather do like 20 minutes a day, every day, or for 5 days. At the end of the week, you'll have almost an hour's worth of having spent time with your craft and your discipline, which is a lot better than expecting miracles the minute you start. And what you could do then is the following week, you'd up that time that you allocate after you've set a timer to 21 minutes, and you do that for 5 days. And the next week you might raise that to 25 minutes, and then the next week you might raise that to 30 minutes. And I would recommend you do it at the same time, at the same place if possible. Now, this isn't always feasible. Sometimes life gets in the way, but this microscopic win is so small that you could potentially do it whenever you get a free moment. And that's the whole point of creating this sort of discipline for yourself. I've got 2 kids and they're both under the age of 4. I'm telling you, it's difficult to actually get in there and spend large amounts of block time with my instruments doing the thing that I love doing. I actually have to do it with a baby on my lap, playing with one hand. And I've learned to love limitations like that. It's such a crazy reward to be able to do the thing that you want to do in such a small way, but you're still doing it. Make sure that after you've set your timer and the timer has run out, let's say for instance you've put in 2 minutes of practice, stop your practice immediately and go off and do something else. Go watch TV or go for a walk outside. That 2 minutes of practice is all you're going to do for the first day, and only for the first week. Don't come back to it. Come back to it the next day. What this actually does is it creates momentum. You feel as though you've accomplished something. You actually begin to look forward to doing it again the next day. Yo, this is the Giants EP rehearsal, making of the documentary Road to Wembley. Log each practice session. It is so important to keep a record of what you've done. In my business, I keep track of every little thing that I do, whether it is on Google Calendar or in a little book that I keep where I write down every new thing that I'm doing. And I always make sure just to include the very next step, even if it means just watching a YouTube video or a training on the particular topic that I'm working on at that particular time. I keep log of those so that when I go back, I can actually see how far I've progressed. And go back and see how far you've come. And this can be a great way to actually perk up your confidence in that, wow, it may have looked as though you've been doing nothing, but actually you've been doing quite a lot. And when you see them stacked up like that, when you see them logged in a way that has this linear progress, it really gives you the push that you need to keep going and to feel good about what you do, because ultimately it really is about feeling like you're accomplishing something. Decide upfront that after a certain amount of reps or practice sessions, you're going to reward yourself by doing something nice for yourself that says, hey, you've gotten to 10 reps, you've put in 10 hours. What is it that you're going to reward yourself with? I'm going to take myself an ice cream. I'm going to take myself to the movies. I'm going to take my spouse on a date. If there is no reward for what you've done, often we tend to lose momentum when there isn't anything that we're working towards or looking forward to. So it's very important that you're looking forward to something. You're looking forward to the end goal. Give yourself the grace to grow according to where you're at this particular point in your journey. Not measured against anybody else, not measured against what anybody else is doing, one step at a time. I want to leave you with a quote by Seth Godin, which I think is amazing. This is one of my favorite books. It's called The Practice. I recommend any creative person read this. The practice is not the means to the output. The practice is the output, because the practice is all we can control. What is it about your creative discipline that is in your control? If it's only a small amount of time, do that thing. Make sure you're doing it consistently, daily if possible, but definitely on the regular. Thanks for watching this video. Remember that your art is your fruit. Share your fruit and share the journey. Fruit Vendor out.